Good afternoon, Good Samaritan Church family, and anybody else that receives this. Wanted to talk to you tonight about being intentional about things, especially intentional prayer. And I wanted to ask you guys, what have you prayed for day after day or year after year, hoping and believing God would do it? Um, and that's basically the title of what we're going to talk about today. Um, First off, we wanted to give a little small testimony to give you a premise of what we're talking about here, because I know everybody tends to have some trouble or some issues in their life, and hopefully this will be a little bit more encouraging on how to go about getting some of those troubles taken care of. Um, it took me and my wife roughly about 2 years of daily prayer after about 4 or 5 miscarriages to get to where we are now, about to have our daughter. Um, Sometimes those situations can be a little crushing, a little defeating, or a little disturbing. But there's a reason that I'm telling you all this, and hopefully, when you understand and receive all of this, you'll be a little bit more encouraged to go to God a lot more, and have a specific way to go to God to take care of some of the trouble in your lives. Um, so with that, I wanted to ask you all, what are you going above and beyond, and what are you having a hindrance from sloth and laziness to try to go above and beyond with, to pray day after day and year after year for God to do something for you in your life? Um, Much like the disciples that walk with Jesus, there are levels to things. There were things that they could endure, things they could not, and things that they could cast out, and things that they could not. Um, there are times when they were confident in the power that they were granted to them, and sometimes they had to run to Jesus when things got a little too heavy for them. And much like those disciples, we too bear these strengths and weaknesses. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 12:7 and 9, "So keep me from becoming conceited. I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly in my weaknesses, so the power of Christ may rest on me. So in truth, its strength and strengths are strengths and reminders of your true strength." Because sometimes we say strengths and weaknesses. So that's why I said it should be called strengths and strengths, or strengths and reminders of your true strengths. Because that weakness part is the part that's telling you, go to God. He gave you grace to handle certain things in your life. And anything that's too strong or too heavy outside of that, he made it so you wouldn't be prideful, thinking that you were the one doing and handling everything. And that's where we're coming from with this having to be intentional about going to him in prayer day after day, year after year sometimes. And that's what I said in this next part. So in order not to be prideful or conceited, or in order not to invite the fallen one into thinking something came by your own power, or what you haven't been able to do or achieve in this life, or would because you didn't include God in the situation. So I'm glad I explained that first part for it, because that might be a little confusing to some people. But basically what I was saying was, don't get fooled into thinking that you're doing it yourself. Because sometimes when things are seriously too heavy and you refuse to go to God, it'll always be too heavy. It'll never come to pass, and you'll continue to suffer. The woman with the issue of blood, she went through it for 12 years. And it's only until she had faith in what Jesus could do, or what would happen to her through Jesus, is when that situation was no longer too heavy for her to handle. And she tried to handle it in her own way by going to doctors and spending tons of money, much like we do these days whenever we have an issue. There are parts of your life where, much like the disciples, you have to run to Jesus. And like 2 Corinthians 12:7-9 pointed out, God did it on purpose so you can remember to come to him. And much like God's children in the Old Testament that had intimate relationships with him and talked to God, they went to God often and for centuries. Adam lived for 930 years. Seth lived for 912 years. Noah, 950 years. And Enoch, 365 years. And we know we can't put that many years on the board ourselves now, but we can put those many days and months on the board. 930 months of walking and talking fervently and praying for something is 77.5 years, which is most people's lifetimes. 950 months is 79 years. 912 months would be 76 years. 365 months is 30 years. So I'm wondering, has anybody ever thought to want to pray to God fervently about something that they need and be willing to wait that long? I doubt it, because most people don't have that kind of patience to make it through a day or a week. But if we put those numbers, I said it like this. I said for now, those numbers may be a little long for most people, patient levels these days. But if you think about it, that's the lifespan of some of our pastors. Most pastors make it to about their 70s or 80s. And granted, they don't necessarily start out being a pastor from when they're born, but there's several passages in the Bible talking about God having a certain purpose for you. So if you were born in your purpose, he already knows what he set out for you to do. So thinking about that and thinking how most pastors make it to their 70s and 80s, that makes a little sense about how walking and talking with him for 930 or 950 months, some of them guys make it to their 70s, or some of those women even. I know that there are some women pastors. But in terms of these numbers and months, it may sound more feasible for these things to be in days sometimes. That may make it even more feasible for what some people have to endure and go through. But for our dreams and for our hopes and for our desires to come true by faith and with faith and through faith, sometimes it takes fervent and intentional prayers day after day, week after week, month after month, and then waiting on God. So to put it in terms of days, 950 days is 2.6 years, or 2 years and 7 months. 930 days is 2.5 years, or 2 years and 6 months. 912 days is roughly about the same, 2.5 years, or close to 2 years and 6 months. And of course, 365 days is exactly 1 year. And I just realized it, but if you think about the situation I just told you, it took us 2 years to get where we are now. And as a matter of fact, I think to this day, it'll be exactly 2 years and 7 months. So just in reflecting on that, I just realized that in me telling you guys this, that it has been roughly 950 days for us to get to where we are in our pregnancy. So all the more, I can say even for me, it hits home. No, I'm not going to make it 950 years, but in intentionally praying after God told us through somebody that God walks and talks with, and I know is fervently seeking God, 2.5 years, 950 days is what it took for us to get where we are now. So all the more for what you need in your life. And that's not something being made up. That is almost on the point. I'm sure it's not exactly 950 days, but it is 2 years and 7 months from when somebody told me to start praying over my wife's womb if we truly wanted to have a baby. So that's crazy. It's not crazy. It's God. It's faith. It's walking with faith and trusting in God. But that's how we like to say things that are miraculous and miracles. It feels crazy to us when it comes to pass. So thank God for that. So I ask you, are you ready to seek God, trust God, and start getting the blessings you truly desire in your head and in your mind and in your heart by trying and praying every day for a year or for 2 years or for 2.5 years? And I was thinking about this. When we think about some of the stories in the Bible of what you get or what transformation God can or will give you by the power that he put in you if you just fervently seek him, and often, and without end, and without any end point in mind of trying to pray for these things. I know I heard it yesterday or the day before about being a microwave generation, want something instantly and right now. But some things God's going to make you wait for and work for. And by work, I don't mean go to a job and get a 9 to 12. I mean just constantly and continually pray to him about it. I know there's people that are having sicknesses. I mean, right now I'm thinking about how when I was a kid growing up, Magic Johnson had AIDS. And everybody in that generation at that time knew it was a death sentence. And I want to say I was maybe 5 or 6. I was less than 10. And I'm 37 now. And yet that man is still alive to this day. Now, I don't know what he did to get to that point. But that's 27 years right there. So if that man truly and faithfully, fervently sought God day after day, week after week, month after month, for 27 years, praying to stay alive or asking for forgiveness for whatever his situation may be, he's still here. When some of us catch a cold and won't even pray for a day. I know there's been people in our congregation, our ministry, that have had to battle or overcome cancers even. And I know we'll go to the doctors. I know we'll get all of these treatments and therapies. And I know your hope comes and goes because when we have heavy troubles, that's just human nature. But fervently, often, without an end point in mind, seeking God and praying to God, asking him to do something. And the crazy part about life is I always used to talk to my wife about multitasking. Sometimes you might have 2 or 3 of these things in your life. It might not just be one. You might have physical problems. You might have a sickness. You might have family issues. You might need some things in your life, like a house and a home for you and your 4 kids or 3 kids or, some loved ones or some people you adopted even. So fervently and often seeking God, walking with him day after day, praying to him day after day, week after week, month after month, to try to get something done. And I already talked about it, but I wrote it down, so I'm going to say it again. The woman with the issue of blood endured for 12 years, hoping to be cured, and finally touching Jesus' garment. You can touch the living word today, which is our Bibles. Jacob waited and worked 14 years to get the woman he wanted and loved. But God loves us because he is a creator and we're his creations. And stronger and everlasting as he loved us before you were born, as stated in Jeremiah 1:5. And you can start learning about that story today in many other sections of love in the Bible if you just pick it up and read it. There's just so many things that God can do for us and in us and through us and with us. But sometimes he has to do something outside of the norm and a little heavy to make us come to him. Because sometimes we can be a little hard-headed about things. But those troubles that seem to be a little heavy and wear us down and just be heavy on us, I issue a little bit of a challenge today to hope that we can start turning around and doing what God would have us to do and not be like Adam and Eve, seeking our own knowledge, thinking we can get through it, but start going to God and praying day after day, week after week, month after month to see if intentional prayer and walking with God will get us through it. So I challenge you to get a whiteboard or a paper, write down and make it plain all of your problems, all of your issues, all of your troubles, all of your sicknesses. And after you write them down, truly acknowledge that God can do it and start doing these prayers about being healed, being delivered, having these issues fixed or resolved and overcame day after day, week after week, month after month, intentionally. Because like I said earlier, 950 days can be 2.5 years. Or 2.5 years, 2 years, 7 months. 930 days, 2.5 years, 2 years and 6 months. And I know that if me and my wife can do it, I know that you can do it. I know that if we can go through it and make it through it, trust in God, I know that you all can. And I know there's different levels to what people believe and think they can and will do. But if it's something you truly want in your heart, look at it like breathing. If you do it enough and it becomes enough of a habit, it'll be like your lungs functioning. Because nobody intentionally holds their breath hoping that, something will just happen. And that their lung, it's second nature to us to breathe. It's second nature to us for our hearts to just keep pumping. It's nothing that we do ourselves. So if you have trouble in your life, let your prayers be like that to overcome these problems and get through these situations. And I had this last little note. It says, trouble don't last always. But God never said how long that would be. So hopefully this is a little bit more encouraging to some of you all that may be going through some things and having some troubles today. Just go to God. And it's not going to happen tomorrow. If everything happened tomorrow, nobody would know how to truly pray. Nobody would truly know how to endure. There's parts of the Bible that talk about long suffering even. So, fervently and intentionally, go to him in prayer about these situations and see what he does in your life. And that's what I wanted to talk to you all tonight about. So hopefully it was helpful to you. Hopefully you received it well, and hopefully somebody else receives it well. Good night.